So this is quite an event, I would say. I would like to welcome Eugen Ruge, who is one of the most successful German writers during the last decade, I would say. And the reason for this success was actually his first novel, was published 5 years ago, 2011, in Germany. And in Deutsch it was called In Zeiten des abnehmenden Lichts, in English In Times of Fading Light, och på svenska Den tid då ljuset avtar. And this is a novel about a family, or a dynasty I would say, in the former GDR, East Germany. And it was an immediate success when it was released, and it was rewarded with the Deutsche Buchpreis. The German Buchpreis is a very prestigious prize in Germany, and it also became a bestseller, sold very well in Germany. So I would last like to ask you, not to be rude, but you were quite old when you published your first novel. You were 57 years old when you published this novel. Why did you wait so long?
So this is a very complex question, because there are many reasons, of course. First thing is that when I left the GDR, this was 1 year before the wall crashed, I would say I hated everything which was connected with the GDR. I didn't want to write about it, and I even couldn't write about it. Yeah, so it took me a long time, you know, to recognize that maybe after the GDR vanished, that was a very crucial point, I think. After the GDR vanished, I began to understand that there still is something which was interesting, that there were characters and stories which are worth to write about, yeah. And so, and then I tried to write about it, and my first attempts simply went wrong, yeah. And then I wrote a theater play. I have to say, it was not like this that I waited simply, but I was a playwright, and I wrote a lot of theater plays in between. So then I wrote first a theater play about this sujet, yeah. But of course, it turns out that the theater play is a too small frame, yeah, for the whole story. And then some years later I decided, yeah, and then, I don't know, it's a little bit difficult to speak about. Then there was actually a point when they diagnosed me cancer, yeah. The cancer vanished then again, yes, or the diagnosis was wrong, but this was a point for me to, you know, to think about what to do with that life is limited, yeah, in some way, and that I have, you know, to sit down and to write these things. If yeah, that was the crucial point.
You had a long professional life before, as I said. Eugen is a mathematician. From the beginning, you
yes.
started out as a mathematician, and then yes. you wrote a lot of theater plays. And this novel is often described as a Buddenbrock of GDR. It's a family story. It's a story about. So it's not just a story about GDR. It's also a story about a family and the family yeah. relations. And it's often very funny.
Yes, I hope so.
It's not just a story about a grim and grey political reality. It's a story about
family. It's essentially a story about a family, I would say. It's not a political, on the surface, it's not a political story, I would say, yeah. It's simply a story about a family, about the different members of the family, how they deal with the idea of communism and so on, yeah. All different, of course, yeah. But it's essentially a story about people, about, I would say, I wouldn't say a dynasty. I wouldn't say about more or less ordinary people. Some of them are communists, some of them are not, of course, yeah. So, like
I will also say that this is beautifully translated into very beautiful and Swedish by Aimee Delblanc.
I can judge it,
yeah,
but I heard
can
about
say
it.
that. So it's. I'd like to stress that. But what do you say about this comparison that you're always very often compared to Buddenbrooks and Thomas Mann? Is that's a specific German thing or?
No, I understand the comparison because in one respect, because of course both are family stories, both are stories about about fading light, if you want, about the demise. Yeah,
and the decline of a house.
Decline of a family, and not only of a family, but the decline of not of a political system in the case of in the case of Thomas Mann, but of a certain
way of life, maybe.
Circumstances, about a class, maybe, it's a little bit more than only the decline of a family, of course, both. Buddenbrooks and this book too, but of course there are a lot of differences too, because I'm writing quite different, of course,
But I think because this family, I mean, it isn't just an ordinary family because they belong to the upper crust or the elite of GDR. The grandfather, who is a very central character, he was a founding.
He was a founding member of the Communist Party, but he is still, I can't express this in English. He is a small functionary. He is a Wohnbezirksparteisekretär. So he is a party secretary of a small district. It's he is not a big fish, but he pretends to be a big fish. That's the point. He is arrogant, and he is that maybe.
But I mean, I have to ask you this because in the novel, the main character Sasha or Alexander, he's happens to be in your age. And he's born in at that time the Soviet Union.
In the Urals,
which you also.
Yes.
So I mean, there are a lot of similarities between this family and your own family history.
Yes.
How close to reality is the novel?
Yes, of course. It is close in some way. All characters, or at least all the older people, have originals in the reality, of course. But on the other hand, if you're writing a novel, you have to invent them new, because of course you don't know how they feel really. And what do we know, for example, about let's say the sexuality of your parents? You do not know anything, And so maybe I can tell you one example. Kurt, who is one of the main characters in the book, my father, has been this character has been like my father. Has been a communist, has emigrated to the Soviet Union, has been in prison camp there. It's all very similar. Came back and was a historian in the GDR. It's all very similar at the first glance. But indeed, there's one difference. For example, his brother, the brother of my father, had almost the same story. He also was a communist, immigrated, was in a prison camp, and came back then in the GDR. In my novel, this brother dies. That seems a small difference, but the difference indeed is big, because I made Kurt a survivor. That is the core of his character, that he survived his brother. And that's the chapter about Kurt is about that. That he has survived his brother. So you see, in some way, it is very similar to my father. The historical background, the facts, are all very similar, and taken from the reality. But the character is of course very different, yeah, because my father hasn't survived his brother, yeah. He has not this this problem, this conflict, yeah, was not his own, yeah.
But as you said, it's primarily a family story, but could this family story have been told in another setting if they hadn't been in GDR, so to speak? Could it have been the same kind of family story if this family had happened to live in at that time at Western Germany or in United States or whatever, to speak? Or is there anything typically GDR in this family story?
So I think I can. I'm not able to answer this question, because if I were both an American and a former GDR citizen, yeah, I could answer the question. But I think no. But I think it's of course originally in the GDR. What happens in the story is of course very GDR-ish, if you want, yeah. Everything, yeah. The characters, the problems, the conflicts that the people have, and of course the whole ambiente is very, it's taken from the GDR, of course, and the humor, of course, is you cannot divide it from the GDR.
This novel has also been published in English, and I read a review in New York Times. It was very very positive review, and it ended with that this novel turn down the wall between Russian epic and the great American novel.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that's good. And they compare you with Jonathan Franzen. So I mean, evidently they think that even the American, they can see something.
Yes.
To identify with.
But that's another question, of course. That's something that that I was astounded too. That so many other and even far from GDR, I mean from Germany, could understand so much. This is maybe because I did not write a political novel, but a novel about people, really, about the family, about characters. Yeah, that is the center of the whole thing. So American and even Chinese people, for example. Yeah, I was in China. I talked to Chinese people, and even in China it works. Yeah, but of course China had the communism too. Yeah, that's again different. But in America it works very well. In France and everywhere. Yeah, I don't know why.
Because in the novel, all of the main characters have their, I would say, own chapters where they are the protagonists, and the grandfather has several chapters because the celebration of his 90th birthday is a very central event. But also Alexander is I would call him the main character. It's a lot of passages from his childhood. So I would ask you, have you left GDR before the 1989, but have you ever felt nostalgic about GDR or the life in GDR?
No, I wouldn't say that, but the point is that I have to accept that this is a part of my life, yeah, and that I grew up there, and that this life in some way made me what I am. We are our past, yeah. Our identity, yeah. My identity is very strong, connected, of course, with the GDR. So that's the point, yeah. And I have to confess this. Maybe this book, in this way, from this point of view, maybe this book is a confession, and it does not, defend the GDR, or is not nostalgic. Yeah, it doesn't judge the GDR too. Yeah, neither. Yeah, but it's simply a confession, if you want, that I come from there, and that this is a part of my life, and and that even sometimes I said that even in the GDR, even behind this wall, a sort of life existed, yeah.
when you reach a certain age, you can, and you meet people from your own childhood in the same age. You can all very often how you have some things that you know that only we can talk about this because we had these common experiences, and we saw this TV show when we were 10 years old and so forth, and we listened to these records and so forth. Yeah. Could you feel? If you meet colleagues who grew up in the western part of Germany? Yeah. Could you communicate with them in this way, or do you feel more connected to them?
But the book is the attempt to communicate about that. I wanted to tell the world, not the GDR citizens, but the others who haven't been there. Yeah, I wanted to tell them how it was, how it really was. Yeah, that was my aim. Yeah, and so on a normal base in a talk, I cannot communicate this, yeah. But by writing a novel, I think I can, and that's why the American people, for example, read the book and like the book too, yeah.
Since this, as I said in the beginning, this novel was published in Germany 5 years ago. Since then, you have written 2 novels, I gather. And the last one of them is in some ways you're continuing with your family story. Could you tell us?
The last one is called Follower. It has an English title, Follower, like the follower in Twitter, yeah. So it is a follower also in the sense that it's a follower of this book. It is sort of science fiction. It's about the grandson of Alexander. Alexander is the grandson in this story, and about his grandson is the follower. So this is one connection, if you want. Yeah, it's hard to describe in a few sentences what the book about. What is the book about? About an agent who tries to sell true barefoot running. Yeah, in China. What is true barefoot running? Yeah, it would take me some more time to explain what true barefoot running is and how can you sell it. Yeah, barefoot running. So, however, this guy is the grandson of Alexander, and then there is a second thing, because at a certain point of the novel, there is a break. And I tell not only the story of the whole family since the 17th century, but the whole story in general. That means the story of the universe and of mankind and everything in 50 pages.
In 50 pages.
In 50 pages.
That's very economically.
Very economically, till this guy, Neo Schultz called, till this guy is born. Yeah, it's hard to describe why I'm doing this, but it of course has its sense. Yeah, and it's so its place in the novel. Yeah?
And I hope I will be able to read it in Swedish. So thank you very much for.
Thank you.
Thank you.